and the paraduma would split open, and the Kohen would stand outside its pit, and would take cedar wood, azov, Eitzov, and crimson wood, and he would say to them, this cedar wood, this is Asov, this is Asov, this is crimson, this is wool, this is crimson wool, 3 times concerning each thing. And they said to him, yes, and yes, 3 times concerning each thing. The Kohen would bind the cedar wood and the Asov, and with the remnants of the strip of crimson wool, and they cast the bundle into the burning of the paraduma. When the paraduma was burnt, they would beat it with sticks and sift and sieves. Rabbi Yishmael says it was done with hammers of stone and sieves of stone. Charcoal containing ash they would grind, and what they did not contain ash they would leave untouched. As for bone, in either case it would be ground. And they would divide the ashes into 3 portions. One person would be placed in the kale, one person would be placed in the mouth of oil, and one would be divided among the watches. Okay. If one more, right?
Yeah.
Right? If one slaughtered a carcass cow not for its own sake, but it is invalid. But if he received the blood or sprinkled it, is not for his own sake, and for his own sake, and not for his own sake, and not for his own sake, and for its own sake, it is invalid. If Eliel was it acceptable, or if it was performed by one whose hands and feet had not been washed, it's invalid. If Eliel validates it, and if it was not performed by the Kohen Gadol, it is invalid, and Rabbi Yehuda validates it. If the service was performed by a Kohen who lacks vestments, that is disqualified. And it was performed with white vestments, and it was performed with the white vestments.
Right. Okay.
By the way, what is the reason? So many times we find in the Mishnas that we're doing, they'll say things 3 times. They always say it 3 times, like they do things in the
eight areas there, that sort of thing.
Yeah, why is that?
I mean, we spoke about that yesterday. They were making a big performance out of it, so that for greater pisama, greater public awareness of what's going on, especially when they were doing stuff that was to show that our practice is not like that Stukim do.
That's right. We said that.
Because there was a lot of confusion, I guess. There were a lot of tzedukkim out there who said, no, you can't do this, and you can't do this. And so when the Prussian went out, they made a big show of especially when it came to kulas. When the tzedukkim made a chumrah, and the Prussian didn't hold by it, they would very, very publicly make sure that people understood that this is not the halacha. Okay. Srafa chutz megita. So if the Kohen burned the cow outside of its pit, or b'shtei gitos, or he divided it up and burned it in 2 separate pits, or shesaraf shtayim begas achas, or he took 2 cows and burned them in one pit. In all of these cases, it's possible. There's some technicalities in the psukim of Srafa that he has to. Sarfa chutz, where is the pasuk? But saraf es a parah, that he's got to burn this cow in this particular place. I'm not going to go too deep into all the detail, but basically it learns out that this has to be done 1 cow, 1 pit. Yeah, hizah v'lo kivein keneged pesach. What happens if he sprinkled and didn't do it towards the harabayis, towards the heichal? That's also possible because it says el nochach pnei ohel moed. That's a requirement in the Torah that it has to be sprinkled in that direction. Hiza mishishis shvius. Okay. V'chazar v'hiza shvius. So what happens if he, remember, every time, what's his motion? He's got to dip and flick, dip and flick. So now let's say he's done everything right the 6 times, and the 7th time he says, I've got extra blood on my hand, let me just flick it again for the 7th time. And then somebody says, hey, you can't do that. And he says, oh, sorry, and he dips again and he flicks. It's too late. He's already messed it up. And now everyone jumps on him and gives him makos because that was our paraduma. He just messed up over there. Okay. So that has invalidated the paraduma, because he did and what's the technicality actually that he's done wrong over here? he's supposed to have done seven with the dips, and he's done it wrong. But so sorry, the next point is actually what I wanted to bring out. Mishvias shminis. Now, what happens if he flicked the seventh time, and then he went and flicked again an eighth time? Because of his shminis, that's kashera, because as soon as he flicked the seventh time, it's done.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that that can go wrong at this point. Although some make the deal that say, you know what, he actually it can't be the same Kohen who did this. If it was if another Kohen came and dipped his finger in the blood and flicked it again an eighth time, that would be okay. But if the Kohen himself, who was busy, who was in charge of the ritual, if he was the one who did the eighth one, he would actually puzzle it in that case, but not because he did the wrong number of flicks, but because he's involved in some other activity that's not to do with he's got involved in what's called malacha. Now, it's malacha in terms of Shabbos malacha. It's malacha in terms of doing other stuff.
Right. Okay, I got it.
Once he's doing other stuff, that we're going to learn in the coming Mishnahs is going to be a psul in the avoda of the Parah. Okay, so Mishnah Gimel, Srafa Shelo Ba'etzim. So let's say he burned the cow without using any wood to do it, but somehow he managed. I don't know, he got a flamethrower or something. Okay, or Bechol Eitzim. Or if he used wood that's not of the type that was specified in the earlier Mishnahs, they said, with fig wood and whatever else. Or Afilu Bakash or Begvaba, if they didn't have any wood and all they used was straw, which doesn't burn well and doesn't create a nice amount of ash. Okay, that's still kosher because there's no requirement in the Torah that he's got to use wood. It just says v'saraf is a parah. Okay, if shita v'nitcha, what happens if he actually skinned? Really, the cow is supposed to be burned whole. What happens if he skinned it and cut it into pieces and threw it on the pyre? Nonetheless, okay. Because there's no requirement in the Torah that says that the cow has to be burned whole. So if he went ahead and cut it into pieces, okay, no, he shouldn't have done that, but it's still okay. Shchata al menas le'echol mibsara. Now, what happens if he's got faulty intentions? Now, I'm sure nobody would actually do this, but we have to deal with all the theoretical cases to understand what's the situation of the parah. Okay. So if the Kohen was shechting and said, I'd actually prefer to eat this, and he shechted it, or he had a thought, I'm going to drink from its blood. Obviously, it's asur to drink from the cow's blood. Okay, but let's say he's a tzeduki or something, and he said, I want to drink from this cow's blood. Nonetheless, it is kosher. Interesting thing over here that this is called kosher. Just like any other korban, because okay, so if it's some just like with a korban, if somebody has in mind when we're learning in Kodshim, and we're going to see that in Zvachim very soon, if somebody shechts a korban thinking, I'm going to eat the horns outside the zman, that doesn't make it into pigul, because the horns aren't normally eaten. Okay, and the blood isn't normally drunk. So that's the same thing over here. So in machshava, this machshava doesn't make any psul because this cow is not normally eaten. Okay, but if he thought at the time of the shchita or of the receiving the blood to sprinkle the blood tomorrow, that for sure is possible, because that's like kodshim, just like kodshim, that if it's got to be sprinkled on the day. And if you're thinking of it after the time, that turns it into pigul. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Ein machshava poseles b'parah. He says, forget about it. This is not. There's no comparison, and we've seen Rabbi Eliezer have his opinion on this before. That this is not comparable to any other korban. It doesn't have the same halachas of psul as korbanos do. So machshava doesn't affect the parah aduma. Halacha does not follow Rabbi Eliezer. Okay. Mishnah Daled. Kol ha'asukim b'parah mitchila b'ad sof. Everyone who actively participates in the paraduma from the beginning to the end, mitamin begadim. They become tame, and so do their clothes. Okay, this is one of the incredible paradoxes of the paraduma, is that everyone who's working with it receives a light tumah. It's an evening tumah, so they can just go to mikveh afterwards. They don't need paraduma sprinkled on them, but nonetheless, they start out tahor, but having worked with the para, they become tame with begadim. Okay, uposlim osa bimlacha. And furthermore, all those who are actively involved in the para, if they get involved in something else that's not to do with the para, that's it. They've ruined the korban. They make it puzzle. So those who are actively involved, for example, the one who's doing the shchita and the sprinkling and the burning, all of those people, they might not be the same person, and all of them have that same din that they will become tameh. What happens if a psul happens at the time of shchita? That then this cow never got the din of the paraduma, and therefore nobody up until that point who had worked with the para becomes tameh. However, if the psul happened at the time of sprinkling, so everyone who had worked with the cow before the time of the psul, they nonetheless do become tameh, and so do their clothes. If, however, it was after the time of the psul, once you've lost the din of paraduma, there's also no tumah. Nimtza chumra kula. So the chumra also becomes a kula, that you've lost the cow, but also you also don't get the tumah. Okay. Lolam moalin ba. However, there's always a din of me'ilah by the paraduma. It's kodshim that you're not allowed to have personal benefit from. Umar bin la eitzim. Furthermore, when you're burning the cow, you can throw as much wood as you want onto the fire, even though that's going to create the majority of the ash. Right? The ashes are, remember, the ashes are going to be put into water and sprinkled and whatever. And most of that ash is actually, if you're going to do a chemical analysis on it, it's going to be wood ash, not cow ash. But that doesn't matter. Okay, you can put as much wood as you want and create as much ash as you want. You can make a gigantic pyre and like just so that the cows almost know nothing in terms of how much ash it created. Okay, but as soon as the cow has been fully burned, if you throw any more wood onto the pyre, that's going to puzzle it, because now you've got non-sanctified wood going into here and diluting the sanctified wood. So as long as the wood was there when the cow was still whole, that's good. But otherwise, it loses it's going to mess up your ashes. It must be done by daytime, and it must be done by a kohen, any kohen. So this Mishnah over here, Paschal's like Rabbi Yehuda in a previous Mishnah that said that the Tanna Kama of the previous Mishnah said it has to be the Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Yehuda says it can be any Kohen, and that is the halacha. Okay. By the way, only the act of the shchita and the sprinkling has to and the initial burning has to be done by day. If they did it close to evening and now it takes a while to burn, now they want to gather the ashes, that can be done by night. That's not a problem. But the actual the ritual part has to be done by day. And if anyone who's involved, remember we said anyone who's actively involved in the preparation of the cow, they posel with any malacha that's not related to the cow until the cow turns to ash. So the guy who started the burning, he has to stand there watching it, and he can't pull out his phone and start scrolling or whatever. Okay, he's got to be standing there, completely focused on the burning until the cow turns to ash. And also when drawing water, right? Remember, you have to go to a spring and draw mayim chayim for the water. So also malacha puzzles that water ad sheyatilu es ha'efer. And so that water has got to be guarded until the ashes are put into it. So whoever's looking after it, and we're going to have a whole section on this now in our Masechta about gathering the water, and how whoever's gathering the water has to be completely focused on that water and looking after it until the point that the ashes are put into it, at which point, okay, now this is mechatas, and it can be put into storage and nobody has to particularly look after it. Okay, that's it for our new Mishnahs.
The Gaia. Daled. Two hairs.
Wait, you Dalet. Let's go. You Dalet first.
Oh wait, that's right. Here we go. Yud Aleph. If a Matzorah brought his offering when he was poor and he became wealthy, or if he brought it when wealthy and became poor, everything follows the sin offering. These are the words of Reb Shimon, and Reb Yehuda says everything follows the guilt offering. A poor Matzorah was brought the offering of a wealthy person, has fulfilled his obligation, but a wealthy person who brought the offering of a poor person has not fulfilled his obligation. A person may bring the offering of a poor person on behalf of his son, his daughter, his slave, and his manservant, his maidservant, and thereby enables them to eat from offerings. Rabbi Yehuda says, just like a wealthy man must bring for himself the offering of a wealthy, so he must bring for his wife the offering of the wealthy. And the same holds true for any offering in which he is obligated. If the offering of two mitzarim became mixed up, and the offering of one of them was brought, and then one of the mitzarim died, how does one resolve the predicament? This is the question that the people of Alexandria asked Rabbi Yeshua. He said to them, the surviving mitzvah should sign over his possession to someone else and then bring the offering of a poor person.
Back to Daled, and tomorrow back to the beginning of Parah.
Back to the beginning of Parah. And just put this over here so I have.
Yeah.
Aleph. Okay. These tissues have lasted a long time. Okay. All right. Okay, Daled. Two hairs that are turning black at the root and white at the top of tahor. If that is, they are not symptoms of tumah. If they're turning white at the root and black at the top, they are tameh. But how much of the hair must be white? Rameya says any amount. Reb Shimon says long enough to be cut with a pair of scissors. If it is one hair that splits so that it appears to be two hairs, it is tahor. A snow white nigger that is a white hair or black hair is tameh, but we are not concerned that the black hair reduces the size of the haris until it is too small to become tameh, because the white hair does not have any substantive thickness. A baharis, the size of a gris, has a strip of nigger extending from it, and the strip is 2 hairs wide. It connects the baharis to white hair or the expansion, but not to a section of living skin. 2 baharis have a strip of nigger connecting them. If the strip is 2 hairs wide, they combine, and if not, they do not combine. Baharis, the size of a gris containing living skin, the size of a lentil, and onto the living skin there is white hair, and on the living skin there is white hair. If the healthy skin disappeared, the baharis is tummy because of white hair. If the white hair fell out, the baharis is tummy because of living skin. Reb Shimon says considers it tahor because the baharis did not cause the hair to change color. The baharis and the living skin, it contains together equal the size of a gris, and there is white hair inside the baharis. If the living skin disappeared, it is tummy because of the white hair. If the white hair fell out, it is tummy because of the living skin. Reb Shimon considers it tahor because the hair that was not changed by the hair is the size of a gris. However, he agrees that if there is a gris of nega where the white hair grows, it is tummy.
Yeah. Kalim. Yadzayin.
Okay. The base of smith is tummy, but that of a blacksmith is tahor. A sharpening board that has a receptacle for holding oil is tummy, but a sharpening board, barra board that does not have a receptacle is tahor. A ledger that has a receptacle for holding was tummy, but a ledger that does not have a receptacle is tahor. And beginning a straw mat or a straw tube, the Rekiva rules it tummy, but Reb Yochanan rules it Nori rules it tahor. Reb Shimon says the same applies to colocint. A mat of reeds or on a ledge or a sedge is tahor. A reed tube that was cut for purposes of being used as a receptacle is tahor until one removes all the pit. Regarding a bin, Reb Shammai says it is measured from its interior, but Beis Hillel said it is measured from its exterior. Both agree that the thickness of the legs and the thickness of the rims are not measured. Reb Yossi says they agree that the thickness of the legs and the thickness of the rims are measured by the area between the legs is not measured. Or the area between the legs is not measured. Shimon Zazori says if the legs were 1 handbreadth high, then the area between them is not measured. But if not, the area between them is measured. Regarding its wheel, when it is removable, it is not considered connected to the bin and is not measured together with the bin. It does not protect against tumah together with the bin when they are over an ohel, over a corpse, and we may not drag it on Shabbos when there is money inside. But if the wheel is not removable, it is completely connected to the bin. It is measured together with the bin. It protects against tumah together with the bin, and when they are an ohel over a corpse, and we may drag it on the Sabbath, even though there is money inside it. Regarding its cover, when it is permanently set, it is considered connected to the bin and is measured together with the bin. But if not permanently set, it is not considered connected to the bin and is not measured together with the bin. How is it measured? By drawing a diagonal line. And Yehuda says that the bin cannot stand by itself. It is tahor.
Okay.
Okay.
Tzrachim.
The consecrated offerings of non-Jews, one is liable for them. It's for pigul, noser, or tameh, and one who slaughters them outside the temple is not liable. These are the words of Reb Meir and Reb Yossi that declares them liable. Things for which one is not liable for pigul, one is still liable for them is for noser and for tameh, except for the blood. Reb Shimon says that for things which are usually eaten, but for the likes of the wood, frankincense, and incense, one is not liable for them for tumah. A sacrifice is slaughtered for the sake of 6 things: for the designation of the sacrifice, for the name of the offerer, for the name of the Hashem, for the name of the fixer, fires, and for the sake of aroma, for the sake of pleasing, and mikatos and asham offerings for the purpose of the sin. Rabbi Yossi says, even if one did not have any of the purposes in mind, it is valid, for it is an enactment of the court. What is the proper place for the sacrifices? The most holy offerings are slaughtered in the north. The bull and he-goat of Yom Kippur and have their slaughter performed in the north. The reception of the blood is sacred vessel in the north, and the blood requires sprinkling between the poles and toward the curtain and on the golden altar. The omission of even one of these applications prevents atonement, and the remainder of the blood he would pour on the western base of the outer altar, but if he did not apply it, it does not prevent atonement.
Okay.
And Ryan Gimel. If one pronounces a vow on his wife that she should not adorn herself with a certain item, he must divorce her and give her the kesuba. Rabbi Yoshi says in the case of a poor woman, if he does not give a limit in the case of a rich woman 30 days. If one pronounces a vow on his wife that she should not go into her father's house when he is with her in the city 1 month, he may keep her 2 months. He must divorce her and give her the ketubah. When he is in another city 1 festival, he may keep her 3 festivals. Then he must divorce her and give her the ketubah. If one pronounces the vow on his wife that she should not go to a house of mourning or to a house of feasting, or he must divorce her and give her the ketubah because he locks the door before her, and if he claims that it was due to some other case, he may. If he said to her, on the condition that you sell so-and-so what you said to me, or what I said to you, or that you fill up and pour out of the garbage, he must divorce her and give her the ketubah. Okay. And Trumos. If one bundles of fenugreek of vineyard kalayim, they must be burned. If he bundles of table fenugreek, he must beat them and calculate how much seed they contain and separate from the seed. But he need not separate from the stalks. But if he separated, he must not say, I shall beat and take the stalks and give the seeds, but he must give the stalks with the seeds. If one pickled olives of chulin and truma olives, whether crushed ones of chulin and crushed ones of truma, or he crushed one of the chulin with 1 whole ounce of truma, or in truma water, they are forbidden. But whole ones of chulin with crushed ones of truma are permitted.
Okay, Adkan. I think you skipped a page in the middle, by the way.
Let me see. I started.
Because you were in the middle of Mishnah Hey, and then suddenly I found you in the middle of Mishnah Vav.
I left out Hey, I think.
You started on Hey, and then.
I didn't say Hey. I didn't say Hey at all.
Oh, you didn't say Hey. Okay, then go. Just let's do Hey again then.
The wine vat of truma or ma'aser sheni, if the seed was sufficient to impart a flavor, but did not the stalk, if one of the 7th year or vineyard kalayim or a hektish, if the seed is the wood impart a flavor. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Tomorrow we're in Ted. Okay.
Okay.
Enjoy. Feel
Much.
good. Okay,
Thanks
thank
very
you.
much. Keep
Bye.
well.